Thank you for tuning in to another edition of the AARP Foundation Experience Corps in your community. My name is O.S. Owen, and I'm your host. And today we have some special guests in our studio. We have Dorian Sylvain, a muralist, and we have our producer on the show today, Stephen Carter, a.k.a. Black Butterfly. Thank you so much for joining us. I understand that you just finished up a piece, and you rushed here with the paint on you, and we love the paint because it's authentic, because you're the real deal.
I did. I was working this morning, finishing up a mural project, and didn't have any time to go home and change. So here I am in my work duds.
And we'll take you as you are. Now, muralist, what is that for our viewing audience? What's a muralist and what do you do?
Well, as a muralist, I'm responsible for shaping spaces with art, and particularly I focus on public spaces. However, I've done a lot of residential murals for people in their homes and their businesses alike. And primarily it's working large scale directly on a wall surface.
Well, that's fantastic. Now let's take a peek at, okay, we're having technical difficulties, so we can't look at that right now. But recently, or some time ago, you've done a piece, a muralist, in the community on 39th and King Drive.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes.
What did that entail?
Yes, one of the things that I try to incorporate in my working life, particularly as a public muralist, is trying to have some public engagement. One of the things that I find as a studio artist is that you do work in isolation. Mm-hmm. And I find that when you're in a public environment, people are so attracted to the idea of painting and making art that they usually want to participate. And so over the years, I've created a day in which people can come and actually pick up a paintbrush and work with me on a project I'm working on. Sometimes they're projects that are meant specifically for the public, but more often than not, it's an invitation to be involved.
Invitation to be involved, to relax. And let me say thank you to you and your fellow muralists and artists. For you guys help us keep our humanity. I mean, when we study anyone's culture or their history, we look at their art, we listen to their music, we read their poetry. So thank you for keeping our humanity on the forefront, and thank you for allowing people to share their vision. It's hard to put something into your expression into a piece of work. It's like writing. So you are a free spirit, you open up yourself and you put it out there. So thank you for continuing to do that.
You're welcome.
I was fascinated myself to watch that mural come into place, and you had folks from 7 to 70, or maybe it was 4 or 5 to 70 or 80 if you include me in that. But people were much engaged in it. Yes.
They were, and I think what it really speaks to is the fact that these opportunities aren't often available for people, and so when something like this does come available, they're just amazed. I mean, one of the little stories that I like to share, particularly about this project, is that as I was painting, there were people coming and going, in the community shopping. And so I became friendly with some folks. I'd see them so frequently. And this one little boy was so anxious to paint. And so when I invited him, I told him we were going to have a community day. He was there at 8 o'clock that morning. He wanted to be the first person. He was so excited about the opportunity.
For him.
Right, and I promise you, he stayed there for 2 hours and just kind of claimed an area. And so it was just so empowering for him to have that opportunity. We had access to paint and brushes and a space where he can work. And when he was done with it, he was so proud. We took a picture of him next to his piece, and we're going to actually put it in the store.
Now, that was not quite like you discovered a little bit later on in life. How old were you when you discovered your attraction, talent, actually genius?
Oh, thank you. I was very young. I grew up around artists, and my aunt in particular was a visual artist, and I was just always very attracted to her lifestyle and attracted to the fact that she had so much familiarity with so many different types of materials. She also did jewelry making and painting and this, that, and the other. So I kind of knew from very early on that was where my strengths were and my desires were. And so I've been laser focused since probably an early teenager.
Well, I want to say, thank you, because this past weekend, you took some of our volunteers on a journey with vision boarding. And I think that our technical difficulties here are not going to allow me to show the pictures. It was just phenomenal. You took this group of people, you explained this vision boarding. Would you explain that to our viewing audience, what vision boarding is and how we did it this past weekend?
Well, there are some projects that I like to do kind of, I guess I would call them sort of studio projects with the public. It is, of course, fun to work large scale on large walls and work with big paintbrushes and big paint. But there's also a time where it's just nice to be reflective. And so one of the projects that I have found very successful, again, with young and old, is this project of what I kind of think of as inspiration boards. Actually, I see our images up for the mural. So if I could just go back real quick on that.
Please.
This is an image of the community day. And as you can see, my team and I had primed the wall. It was 150 feet. It's quite a long wall. And then we pre-drew all the designs. And aside from being a beautiful day that day, we had a DJ, and it just was so much fun. So the whole environment was fun. It was very friendly. People from even in the store, the employees came out sometimes to take breaks and just to paint for a little while. But it really was just this massive call. It was like just anybody come out, paint anywhere you want, any color you want.
But not just anybody. Weren't there some family members involved in this?
Yes,
and how
yes.
they're involved.
Let me talk about that because my family is very core to everything that I do. And I have 3 boys who are all visual artists, and I have 2 nieces and a nephew. Oh, I have more than that, but these 3 nieces and nephew work very closely with me, and so we all collaborate under what we call Artist Tree, which being kind of a family mission to support these kind of projects. So. From administrative to documenting to social media, I've forward what we're trying to do collectively. Back to the idea of these vision boards is that one of the things that I also find as an educator is that technology, of course, as we all know, has become a problem, with all generations.
Yes.
And I have a philosophy, kind of an old school philosophy. I just really feel like children and adults alike just need to be reintroduced to paper, to paper, scissors, glue, just real old fashioned, what I call old fashioned
blended
materials, right?
Now,
I mean,
up on the board there.
Right.
Walk us through that real quick.
Right, so this is the end product. What it is that, we can actually do this project, and we've done it collectively, where we work on one large piece, which was that opening photo you saw. Mm-hmm. And then these photos that you're looking at are individual pieces. And so what I do is that I just really make it available. This picture shows how I set out the materials. I set out an array of colors of just plain tissue paper. We have Mod Podge, paintbrushes, scissors. But the real icing on the cake to me is the words. I spend a lot of time just cutting words. Yes, I just cut words. And then I lay them all out, usually on a 6-foot table. It's usually hundreds of words that are out there. And one of the things that I find so successful about having the words cut out is that it challenges the artist, be it young or old, to string together ideas. Mm-hmm. So it's not just you writing, I want to have, big projects next year. Yeah. It's you really looking at language, looking at composing, looking at working with limited resources, and all of that's just kind of like real life reflection. So sometimes people just kind of find singular words, but my experience has been more often than not that people really sit there and labor over what it is that they want to say.
Labor and focus. You can
Yes,
see
and
the
focus.
intensity,
I
yes.
mean, they sit there and they look. They gather up things. They go back to their desks. They kind of sort them through.
So
Sometimes they want more.
Collaborative piece.
Right. Now, this is a collaborative piece. This one we did on a large canvas. And again, you can see the tissue paper layers. Again, a very easy material for people to become comfortable with. And then you also see some random words that are also kind of glued down there. One of the things that I got to say, too, about this project is that they're just always successful. Always successful. People walk away with a true expression of what's on their mind in terms of color, in terms of words, in terms of ideas. And then it becomes a piece that they're proud of. One of the things that I like about this particular project, say, versus a painted project, is that oftentimes a paint material can be quite intimidating to people, even to young people. And so this kind of, you don't have that concern with these materials.
Yes.
Even if you're just cutting circles out and just gluing a bunch of circles, it just always is successful. And then when you add that personal statement, when you string together some words that say something about your desires or your hopes, then it just...
Now, who are these people?
Well, wait a minute. Well, you took the
are
theme.
these? All right.
The theme was...
The theme was
Perfect Vision
Perfect
2020.
Vision 2020.
And I had no idea, and our volunteers and collaborators just loved it.
Yeah.
Because they said it gave them an opportunity to put what they were thinking on paper.
On paper.
And for
That's
adults to
right.
be cutting and gluing and the laughter and the smiles there, that was just fantastic.
Will you please talk about the volunteers and how...
Well,
these
we're getting
volunteers-
there.
You're going to get there.
Well, no,
Okay.
tell you what, you get us there.
No,
then.
no.
You get us there. I insist.
I'm one of the volunteers. I tutor second graders at Miles Davis Academy, and it's been a great experience for me personally and fulfillment that I have these second graders 3 times a day for a couple days a week, and they learn how to read and enjoy reading because they're going to be the best readers in the entire history of Miles Davis Academy. That's the mantra I teach them. But it was possible because you recruited me and some other brothers, Alpha brothers, to be volunteers. I thought you were going to talk about that a little bit.
Well, I wanted to. However, I thought you would be best at it, sir.
From the personal point of view.
Well,
But
you're the volunteer.
Yes, I am.
And this event was for our volunteers to take them on this journey, and you participated.
Very sustaining.
And you were able to share your vision on this vision board.
Yes.
And what did you walk away with, sir?
I walked away with a theme and a feeling of comfort in doing some art and letting it come out of me. You pulled that out of us. You told us you cut up all those pieces. Then I found myself going back and find some more cut-ins, snipping some more myself to make it more particular. And it graces my office right now, the piece I finished. It wasn't on camera, but I thought it was a good piece.
Yes, quite a few students end up framing these pieces because they become pieces that not only do they spend an afternoon composing, but again, it's something personal. Down to from the colors they choose to the imagery to the language. So it's something they walk away feeling very proud about.
Now, just so you know, those pictures that you saw took place over 2 days, if you will. Our first Saturday, we were in Holman Square at the art school, SAIC Art School on the 12th floor in the Nichols Tower, which was originally the Sears Tower. And that environment was so
wonderful.
conducive and so wonderful. And the work that was produced in that environment was just amazing. And then we had our second event at the Africa International House over at 62nd 100 and Drexel. And that environment was just phenomenal because we were surrounded by art. And you were infused with this art. And it came across. And our volunteers really, really appreciated this opportunity. In fact, this is the third one that we did. And they were looking for a paint. However, you switched it up. And thanks to SJW, Simone Woods, we appreciate her vision in saying we're going to do something different. And that's how you got involved. And it just transformed itself from this project to this production.
And I got to say, too, because just speaking to, the participants that day, they really appreciated the fact that it was a new material. We kind of talked about the idea of materials and projects and future things. And for many of them, it really is about the idea of exposure. exposure to something new,
I
exposure
did
to
acrylic
new.
before.
Right,
Things that-
right.
And did
Well,
you ever
things
do this?
acrylics.
The
That
cut
was
and
the
paste?
first time for this. First time I experienced something like that, and how gratifying it was. And you just let yourself go, and she makes it
Right.
so easy to let yourself go.
Well, and that's part of what we do at Experience Corps.
Yes.
We bring our experiences, and you brought your experiences to that group, and that group followed suit and shared them experiences. See, we encourage that you continue to do new things. Be the best version of yourself. Step out of your comfort zone. And we here at the AARP Foundation, we're constantly looking for folks that are 50 and over to be volunteer tutors and mentors for kindergartners, first graders, second graders, and third graders in the Chicago Public Schools. And we do events like this, the vision boarding, to continue to inspire and encourage not just you, but us as well. And those of us over 50, we have the capacity, we have the skill set, and we have the knowledge, and we want to continue to encourage you to move forward. And Stephen, I must say, since I've known you and you've been working with our program and this whole art piece, you have just transformed into a fantastic role model. I like to emulate what you do, especially at this part of life, because life events kick in. And you've not let anything stop you. And I saw you that weekend in that studio with that glue and those words there. And I saw
All
the
the
piece.
black paper. He took all the black paper.
No surprise
Okay.
there. No surprise there. But I want to get back to, why is black art so hot, so popular? What's going on with that?
Well, that's interesting because I guess my first response to that is that black art's always been hot and popular. I think that it's always been our expression that has been quite welcomed by general society. It's almost like this desire to see what's coming out of our imaginations. What's coming out of.
But it's even hotter now.
Use it. It's even what ebbs and flows.
Okay.
I mean, to me, I think that you have more black artists taking larger roles, more public roles. And I think, too, a lot of the obstacles that were in the way. We were just celebrating one of our first black industrial designers who recently passed here in Chicago. And when he was coming up in the 40s, 50s, there was no space. There was no space for him.
Yeah.
So now, the landscape is very different. I think that a lot of young artists particularly are really finding, are becoming empowered to move forward and to make bolder expressions. And so I think people are paying a little bit more attention. Maybe the voices are louder.
Well,
Maybe
let me
that's
ask you
what
this
it is.
now. We say black art. Is it black art because of the subject matter, or is it black art because of the artist?
Well,
What
it does
defines
depend
black art?
on what your context is, because sometimes people qualify black art as having to have black subjects, as having to be even black people.
Right,
There
right.
used to even be a debate about abstract
Abstract
art,
versus
because
figurative,
if
yes.
it's not visible that there's a black subject in it, does
Gotta
that
have
make
a
it black
broad
art?
nose and thick lips.
So and so people do continue to debate that, but to me, at the end of the day, if a black person made it, it's black art. To me, that's what
my
qualifies it.
definition.
Yeah.
And the two of you are both in the art world. So just for my benefit, as well as some of our viewing audience, the African diaspora, and we talk about art. Briefly, give us a little bit about that and the role that you play and that we play collectively.
Let me just say one quick thing. She's been a curator. She's curated some art shows that I've put together. And what she does as a curator, why don't you talk about that, both the selection process, what goes into mounting, and selecting what you do
Well,
for.
Okay.
Yeah,
Be
'cause
mindful of our time.
Yeah,
That-
quickly, I would have to say that the curation is very underrated, in the sense that it's important to have the artist and the expression of the work, have paintings or, different creations that artists make, but how you display it is also very important. And so as a curator, I'm always looking at the aesthetic presentation, how do we give this piece of art the best presentation? And so it's not just about hanging things, straight or correctly, but it's about creating an environment. And so that kind of pulls itself back to my work as a public artist, is that I'm always thinking about space and thinking about how art impacts space, be it a piece that's directly on the wall, be it a piece that's just hanging on the wall. So it's always about
And
trying
how
to pull
people
those.
engage
And,
that art.
right,
Okay,
exactly.
yeah.
In the context of trying to make it more impactful. I have a background also in theater set design, and I oftentimes, even with artists, make that comparison that it's always about the story, right? Actors can come in and they can act in a completely black set, but when you add the scenery, it actually gives more to the audience. So to me, dealing with the walls when I curate spaces is kind of like creating scenery for the artwork, which I think of as the actors.
Well, we were very fortunate to have you because you're so very multi-talented. That piece that we did collectively, it's going in my office.
All right.
At
Need
first,
me to come and hang it?
you know what? Maybe you should, because at first I wanted to put it in the office. Then I said, this should go in my office, you know.
It was a beautiful piece.
And for us to have you there, who had already done a piece for the African Festival, some was that 2001.
2001,
And our volunteers were blown away to have a poster autograph. And the mere fact to be in that space, the African International House, was just simply an amazing event. And our volunteers walked away with a whole new philosophy, a whole new idea, and they were recharged with this 2020 perfect vision. And
2020.
I've got to ask one question about a piece of art that helps define what is black art. One of the most famous pieces recently is the picture of this young lady sitting in an art gallery looking at Michelle Obama's portrait. That blew me away. It told so much. Now, is that black art or is that art? How did it, when you saw it, are you familiar with the piece
I'm
of
familiar
art?
with
Yes,
the
a
piece,
fabulous piece. Both
Yeah.
portraits. I mean,
Yeah.
and of course, it was an incredible opportunity for both of those visual artists who have a long and long history as artists, but have developed their work, their art, and their philosophy and techniques to such a masterful level. But for me, it is about. It does come down to imagery too. I think sometimes what is really impactful in that is when you see a young person looking up at, to me, what is a reflection. And that is so when a young person can put themselves in the picture and say, that could be me. And not that it's that egotistical, but
that's
that you
shooting
can...
higher, stepping higher,
Right.
emulating.
Right. If all she's looking at is white men, never can she say, oh, that could be me. And so, even that presentation of that image can either exclude people and shut people down, or it can invite them in. And what the Obamas did by commissioning those two very incredible black artists to create their portraits, they took that whole idea of the presidential portrait to another level.
Yes.
Awe-inspiring.
Yeah.
And I don't usually use that word. I hate to use it, but it was awe-inspiring.
Yeah, beautiful.
Now,
And thoughtful.
let me ask you this. We've got folks out there who want to take their hand at art. What would you do to encourage them? And what's the next step for anyone who's interested in exploring art? We enjoyed it, and my volunteers had a wonderful time, and we believe you're never too old. So what would you tell someone out there in our viewing audience who says, gee, I want to do that. What should I do?
Well, I always advise people to develop and build relationships with whatever is your current art center. A few of my creative homes are such as the Southside Community Arts Center, DuSable Museum, the Hyde Park Arts Center. All of these institutions offer programming and to some degree some educational opportunities. And opportunities where you can just mix and mingle with neighbors.
Do you teach? Do you teach
I
art?
teach.
Where do you teach?
I teach at Hyde Park Arts Center. I teach at Jones.
I
through
like that
Columbia
place, the
College.
Hyde Park Arts Center.
I teach through quite a few organizations. Marwin, another great arts organization. They're particularly focused on children. But one of the things with the seniors is that the real crux of it is about socializing. The real crux of it is about getting together. And to get together and make art and to feel accomplished when you walk away from something, it just makes it a much broader experience. It's not people just sitting around chit-chatting or even gossiping. It's people really making stuff and encouraging each other,
Well, I want to thank you all for being here today, and thank our viewing audience for tuning in to another edition of AARP Foundation Experience Corps in your community. Until the next time, go out and do some art.
That's right.
Thumbs up
Thank
on
you.
that. Thumbs up.